And welcome back to another Blunt Force Business. I am Brian LaFauci.
And I'm Patrick Marino.
And today we are going to talk about customer service.
Customer service?
Yeah, we're going to, even us here at Blunt Force Business agree that the customer is always right.
The customer is always right.
It's the age-old adage.
I don't know if anybody really believes that, though.
Right. Nobody believes that. The customer's a fucking asshole, and you just make them believe they're right.
Right. We want to just make the customer believe that maybe they might be right.
That's the game.
Yeah.
That really is the game. 99% of the time, they're wrong, and they don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah, because we're the experts. We're running our business.
We know everything better than they know it.
Right.
But with that being said, we deal with customers all the time. You're going to deal with customers all the time. And at the end of the day, having our 3 blunt force facts there with you as you plan to deal with customers is going to gradually help your business growth, customer retention, and a bunch of other stuff we're going to talk about. But we'll kick it off with our first blunt force fact for today. In our midnight, I will point out one more time.
It's one of our midnight
editions of our Blunt Force Business podcast, where I am enjoying a Nica Libra, little Nica Libra Connecticut wrapper cigar, and I think you got a Latitude.
It's Latitude, yeah. Latitude 0.
And
does that mean it's got 0 calories?
It's a 0-calorie cigar, and we are dining on I don't have my glasses on. You want to read that at the bottom with the distillery?
That's freaking hilarious that you would ask me. It's Waterman Farm.
Waterman Farm.
How far off was I?
Yeah, pretty far off.
I think it says Waterman Farm.
In the comments below, where you can get this delicious bourbon. It's in Connecticut, right on Route 101 in Connecticut. Drove by it last weekend on our way to a graduation party. And
Water Cure Farm.
Water Cure, thank you. Water Cure Farm in Connecticut. It's absolutely fantastic. If you're in that northeast area, I recommend a stop by. And shout out to my friends at Water Cure Farm that I met last week, became best friends with, and walked out of there with a plethora of their distilled beverages, which every single one thus far. Cider, they have an apple cider brandy, which is phenomenal. And it's not your typical brandy. It's 140 proof apple cider brandy. It's delicious. The bourbon's good. They have a mint vodka, cucumber mint vodka they distill there.
I like cucumber drinks.
That's fantastic. So shout out to them. They're not sponsoring us yet, but they will be after this podcast.
Yeah.
So
let's talk about our blunt force facts. Right?
Well,
so we're talking about customer service.
Before we do that, I'm going to ask you to I know the blunt force fact order we were going to go in, but because of what just happened there,
we're not going to skip ahead.
Can we give blunt force fact 2
No.
All right, we'll go back to 2 in a minute then. All right. Blunt force fact number 1, Patrick.
If we're going to throw this whole thing into chaos, we have to be ordered. We have
Ordered
a checklist.
Chaos.
We're going to go through it.
That's true. We did not plan out the chaos. So, blunt force fact number 1 is what?
No service, no business.
No service, no business. Customer service is hands down one of the most important things you're going to do.
It has to be as important as your product. It has to be important as your marketing, as your back end, as your sales process, as your revenue collection, your invoicing, whatever it is. If you don't have a customer service as a priority, then you aren't going to be in business for very long.
And if you are in business, I always tell people this. If you have the mentality that we're big enough and we do well enough, you're losing revenue. And at the end of the day, lost revenue is lost revenue. Right. And if you can make $1 million a year or $1.1 million a year, that's real money that you're throwing out the door. Because where I feel like some companies fail at this is sometimes larger companies fail at this.
Right.
And lose revenue because of strictly of that. I'll tell one story and then I want you to jump in. There's a restaurant.
I was listening to Respond.
I appreciate you acknowledging it at least.
Yeah.
So you get listen to hear and then breathe.
Listen to learn.
Listen to learn. There's a restaurant in Connecticut. I will not name the name because I'm going to do the kind thing. But a restaurant, another Connecticut restaurant we went to, and the food is phenomenal. It's really tiny, tiny restaurant, phenomenal food, really cool little ambiance too. It's quaint, it's nice, and we were going there, fairly regular. And one time we went there, and we had made reservations, and they did not have our reservation on file. And the response to that, like, interaction was from the hostess was these exact words: "I'm sorry, but we don't have to do anything for you. We're busy enough as it is." And we haven't been back since.
And they are out of business.
They're not.
And the family that owned the business is now like bankrupt, and the kids
sometimes
the kids can't go to school anymore.
It doesn't have to be that much to impact, but the reality of the impact is: do you think my family goes there? Other family members used to love it anymore? Not as much,
right?
Or some of them not at all, and so it's all revenue. It all adds up. Right. And maybe you think, yes, you can fill that seat, but at the end of the day, I've never called and not been able to get in. So now that is a phone call that you're not getting anymore.
Right.
Right. Strictly from that interaction.
Right.
And, it doesn't always have to be doom and gloom. Like you're going to close, everything's going to fail. No. But if you just had treated us a little nicer, and if you cared about us and showed you cared, I mean, it was the most dismissive, you don't matter at all as a customer you could be. Right. And it was probably the most extreme answer I've ever heard anyone give.
Right.
But it's important.
Right.
It's important, and to make people, feel.
And I think a lot of times we judge quality based on the service that we receive, right? So if your restaurants are a great example because frequently you're judging the quality of the restaurant based on the quality of the service you receive. How quick are they to get you through the process? Are they quick to take your order? Are they quick to clean the table if something goes wrong? Are they quick to replace something if it goes wrong? Do the waiters and waitresses know the menu off the top of their head? Do they have to ask a lot of questions? You know what I mean? Do they just remember it? So when they walk away, when they bring you your meal, are they serving it to the correct people? Right? Those are all the things, like just that little bit of service adds up to your entire experience.
And you brought up a really great point here, and it might have been you and I that were talking about this. Was it you that I was talking to about the hotel company that did a study and alleviated all the main problems they had in their hotel? Was it you?
I don't think so.
Okay. So similar to this point, and I think what our listeners need to understand is having people have an issue with something at your business is an opportunity.
Right.
It is not necessarily a problem. Now, if you have so many issues that you're flooded with problems, that's an issue. We had a different podcast for that one, right? And fuck your shit. But for this case, a normal amount, when we say the 10% rule, like 10% might have a problem and they might voice that to you. And that's not a problem. It's an opportunity. There was a hotel chain that did this huge study, and and what they wanted to do was alleviate the problems for their consumer, right? They wanted their consumer to come in. It was a high-end hotel chain. Come in and just have the best experience possible. So they went through all of the stuff that people complain most about, and they went and did all this revamping, fixed it. And guess what happened to their Google reviews?
What happened?
They dropped.
Oh.
And they were dumbfounded. They couldn't understand. But the reality is that people didn't really have an issue with the fact that there was problems here and there. The reason why they got better reviews before was because when there was a problem, guess what they did? They fixed it.
Right.
And they fixed it fast and politely with apologies. And so what do you think the Google reviews were? It was people so they had a touch point in their experience. Whereas instead of just going, no problems, nothing happened, it was uneventful, no reason to comment on anything, when they had problems, so the skill set and the thing that needed to be there was a prompt, effective, friendly response to a complaint, and the reviews, like, that's what they realized, those touch points and solving a problem for people helped garnish, like, customers and the customers' feeling about the experience.
Right. I mean, I think the easy examples of this is obviously dealing with an unsatisfactory customer experience. But how about no customer experience? I don't know if you've had this happen, but have you ever walked into a spot where there wasn't somebody there to answer your question right away, and you just walked right out? You walk out and there's a front desk, there's nobody there to answer your question right away, and you look around for a second and you just walk right out.
Right.
It's the same thing in our business, right? If you ever had, like, I mean, I know that I've had this happen, especially as I've grown, is if you do not have a response to a customer inquiry fast enough, then you don't get the business because they've moved on. You know, so it's like no service, no business.
Right.
Right? So if I'm not ready to serve the person who's asking me for my services, then I'm not going to get the business, right? Or I actually we are coming from the pandemic, right? So there's been this dearth of restaurant workers, right? And so, you know, people are having trouble finding help. And so we sat down at the restaurant one time, we didn't get served, and we walked out. It doesn't happen very often, but no service, no business, right? It's like I'm expecting a certain amount of service. If I get no service, then I got my business, right? So it's like you have to look at your customer as a priority, and you have to give them the service that they deserve.
No matter how good the product or service you have or deliver is,
right?
There is nothing worse than needing someone's attention and not being able to get it, or feeling like they don't have any way of supporting you.
And I think everything's relative too, because I think there's this like old school vision of the curmudgeonly business owner who's just like, this is the way I serve hot dogs, and if you don't like them, this is the one type. Yeah, like those businesses I feel like are falling by the wayside because there's so many examples. Like, it's all relative, right? There's so many examples of people that are going to give you this really, really positive experience that you're going to suffer by comparison, right? If somebody else is doing it better, somebody else is giving you good service, then you're going to remember them ahead of the people. Yeah, it's all relative, right? So it's like, if you're going to be the curmudgeonly business owner who's going to be like, you know what, like this is how I do it, then you're just going to suffer by comparison.
There was that one restaurant that was able to pull up. What was it?
Dick's Last Resort. I was going to bring them up. Yeah. If you're a Boston-based,
that was brilliant. That was a brilliant move.
Right,
and they like, did it so over the top.
There's an argument to be made if your differentiator is that we're a curmudgeon,
and you know what you're getting.
Right, exactly. If you stand out in the world of well-serviced organizations, where there's good service, and you're the one who stands out as the poor service.
That was a brilliant
That
model.
could be a marketing way of doing it too, but generally speaking, it's the other way around, especially if you're just dealing with just selling some sort of just general product, or if your service is whatever, if it's landscaping, you're not going to be able to get away with bad service.
Right.
You know, treating the customer poorly, not answering their requests, you know, not having somebody who's frontward facing with the customer, being able to talk on their level, look them in the eye, give them a response. Are you ready? Because I feel like you were ready.
I am ready.
So blunt force fact number 1 is no service, no business. Blunt force fact number 2 is the best marketing is a happy customer.
And listen,
we've got a happy customer right here.
We have a very happy customer. I'm glad we got to this. I just wanted to rush through one so we could get to 2 to get back to the fact that, you know, unintentionally, what I just did with this whiskey was exactly, you know, what we're talking about, and that was completely unintentional. But what is better than someone jumping up and saying, "Hey, you got to try this place," or "Hey, you're struggling with this business concept, you need to call the Blunt Force business guys because they got all the answers," right? Like, nothing is better. When we get customers that send us testimonials, it is the best marketing we get. Right? It's the, hey, you're willing to go out of your way, take your time to send us a video testimonial or write up a testimonial. Like, that to me is worth it. It's better than anything you can pay for. And people are the best referral. You said it earlier with your referral fee. Like, how do you get most of your business?
I mean, I think that there's a lot of businesses out there that operate on a word of mouth basis. Like, how do you get your business? Oh, word of mouth. I did a good job for one person. They told other people about me, and now I've got this whole customer base, right? Because I did a good job for one person. And one of the things that maybe you can even talk about it, I don't know if you're prepared to, but we talked about the speech that the Navy SEAL trainer gave. Mm-hmm. He was talking about, it was a motivational speech, right? But this concept of don't just think that you're serving the person in front of you, because that person is going to be able to affect all these other people, right? And it's just this compounding effect. If you give one person really, really, really good service and they have a good experience, they're going to tell the next people that they had a good experience. They're going to have positive things to say. Maybe they're not going to go out there and tell everybody that they had a good experience, but when asked, they're going to be like, oh yeah, that was was really good. I really, really enjoyed that. That was a great product, or I had a great experience when I was there. I felt like I was cared for. I felt like they cared for me. I felt like they really, really knew what they were talking about.
Yeah,
right?
The book, the speech you're talking about, and I always mess up his last name because my brain dumps names immediately. It's the gap of, but
that's when you're
yeah.
when you're drinking.
Well, that's because I don't have my glasses on.
Connecticut
I can't read
barley.
that.
No, I'm just saying, like, this will cause the gap.
Well, I can do pretty good with the Connecticut barley. But book being Make Your Bed, I think it's Adam McCreary. And if I said that wrong, I apologize. But I got the book right, Make Your Bed. And the book came out of a famous speech he gave at a UT graduation. And absolutely. And he talks about the butterfly effect, really, of one person has how do you find out about good restaurants? This is a great example. It's not through TV. It's not through... you find out about them because someone says, you got to go here. Right. Right. You got to go to that. You got to go to that distillery. Right. You got to go. That's the case in every single business. That exists in every business. And yes, there's other marketing avenues that any company's going to use, but there is nothing better than somebody you trust telling you got to go do something or go somewhere. And, thinking about your customers that way, and using your customers as your marketing tools is key. And so I always say, if you don't ask, you don't get. So if you did solid by a customer and they had a good experience, ask them for a test. Ask them to write a testimonial. Shoot them hey, would you be willing to, listen, in 99% of the time, a customer that has a good experience is going to be willing to give that to you. And that stuff is gold.
Well, worse than that, the customer who had a bad experience is going to give
definitely
the opposite of the testimonial, right?
Yes.
So it's like if you have a bad day, and we all have bad days, right, where you say something you didn't mean, or maybe you're a little bit more grumpy because you didn't get enough sleep, or whatever it is. Or in a slightly bigger organization, it's not you. It's the people that you've empowered to be customer facing, right? The people that you've hired to be in front of customers, and they're not at their best. Right? And it only takes that one person who has a bad experience to then the butterfly effect in the other direction, right? Yes. And so what we do now is we live in this online world where we can look up any business. And what do? We do a Google search, or we look them up on social media, or wherever we do it. And we're going to look at the comments. We're going to look at the experience that people had. Yeah, exactly. Reviews. And which reviews are you going to look at more likely? I know for me, I'm looking at the bad reviews, especially if I'm going like to a hotel or something, or a restaurant. Hotels in particular.
To see what they're going to say.
I want to see what the bad review is.
And if there's trends.
Right, exactly. It's like, yeah. The rooms weren't clean, or the noise was too loud, or whatever it is, right? And so, like, I think that's why having this idea of your customers being your brand ambassadors, right? Your happy customers. If your goal is to make every customer happy, then you have fewer of these issues, right? Fewer of the bad issues get outweighed by the good. It's like, yeah, I'm looking for the bad, but there's so many good, like maybe that person was wrong. Like you said, the customer's always right. Like we know the customer that's curmudgeonly and grumpy and an asshole.
Yep. And
make sure that asshole is heard by the fact that all the other comments are fantastic, right? Because we did such a good job. We serviced all the rest of our customers so well. They're all really, really, really happy. The one doesn't stand out.
And I think the key for our listeners is making sure that they are grabbing those good experiences and getting them out there. So how do you do that?
Yeah, my blunt force fact is you didn't ask, right? It's like you didn't ask. Why didn't you have great reviews? Did you ask? Did you ask people for their reviews? You provide them with some sort of follow-up experience, right? That's part of the customer service experience as well. Like, how was your experience? How did you feel about it? You know what I mean? Like, was it a good experience? If it was a good experience, leave us a review. But even the outreach of asking is a step. It's part of the process.
Right. And I know, we'll be doing a video on how to utilize technology to maximize this stuff like this in the future. But one of the things that, right now we'll hit you with is there are plenty of ways to kind of automate getting that Google review in front of them. Right. And getting them to give the 5-star thumbs up.
It's very rare if you have like some sort of point of sale system or some sort of CRM where you're inputting customer service, right? They had their house power washed or their plumbing done, generator installed, or they bought this product, whatever it is. There's very few CRM systems that won't have some sort of automation, or chiropractor is at a chiropractor visit, right?
Yep.
There's very few that don't have some sort of automated feature where it's like after a certain number of days, send feedback, ask, right?
Yes.
Send review requests.
Yes.
Yeah. But the idea is that your marketing is going to be these happy customers. That's the blunt force fact. Your best marketing is happy customers. That positive word of mouth that almost every business owner talks about, you only get that through good customer service. I mean, obviously, if you've got a great product and you've got a great service, that might help. But sometimes the great customer service makes up for an inferior product. Mm-hmm. It happens all the time.
Well, and we see this playing out every day in social media now where companies are looking for influencers. And the only reason they're doing that is to get someone with a voice that people listen to say that they're a customer of theirs.
Yep.
I use blah, blah, blah. And advertising, think about how advertising has changed too, where it used to be all advertising was there'd be a break and someone's pre-canned ad would play. And then radio kind of changed just a little bit, and radio DJs started to be like, oh, we'll read the ads like it's stuff we use.
Right.
And now, all your big podcasters and things like that, when they're doing ads, they're promoting it as if they use it every day. And they might not, who knows. But it's like, what are we talking about here? We're talking about the concept that we want to hear from someone that we trust, that they trust that thing.
Right.
So
great. So your best marketing is your happy customer.
Absolutely.
That's blunt force fact number 2. Blunt force fact number 3 is a little bit farther down the line, and that is consistency is the key.
So what does that mean?
Well, I know that whenever I think about consistency, I think about my buddy Brian, because my buddy Brian is all about checklists. And I know that, like, for example, with one of the companies I work for, there's a variety of products that they sell. Mm-hmm. And so it's really, really important that the person who is on the other end of a customer service call mm-hmm. is educated about that product. And that can be really difficult, right? But over the course of time, if you've been selling the same product for a while, the questions that are going to be asked. And you know what the best answer is. So rather than force your people to figure it all out and be like, well, and even hesitant or hesitate or pause, you create an FAQ, frequently asked questions. Here's the answer. When someone asks this, answer this. Because we know from our experience, we've been doing this for a while, over the course of many years, we know that these are the answers that are going to get us the best response.
Yes.
And just and now it's a process, and the process brings us consistency, right? Because we have a process in place, a checklist or a process, this FAQ, standard operation procedures, right? Is that correct?
Standard operating procedure.
I don't think I said it correctly.
Operations procedure.
Yeah, whatever.
Yep.
Right? But like this idea that we have these in place now so that we can be consistent, and now the customer can leave with a very, very consistent experience.
And it's not even just your employees. That starts with us. Even, and I think a lot of our companies that listen to us are like 1 or 2 people, solo entrepreneurs, or, a small group. And so they're the ones answering the call. But we're human. And we have good days, like you said earlier. We have bad days. We have days where we're in the mood to make someone happy. And we have days where we're like, I don't want to hear your complaint. It's ridiculous, right? So it's a starting point for us to say, what are we going to do when someone calls with a complaint? What are we willing to do? How far are we willing to go? And where's our limit? And that's more of like an internal conversation of, at the end of the day, the issue is going to be whatever it is. So we're going to have that operating procedure of step 1 is, can we fix this issue quickly and easily? And now that's the first thing we're going to try to do. But some you can't fix because some maybe already happened.
Right.
Like, okay, we had this product or service and this thing happened that was a bad thing. Can't fix it. It's too late. So now we're past the fix stage and we're on to the second part of the FAQ or the checklist, which is we can't fix it. So now we got to remediate.
Right.
And once you can't fix anything anymore, you need to try to make that other person happy. So how far are we willing to go to make the other person happy? And that needs to be documented, right. I believe. And I think you need to come up with a fair way of saying, at our best, will we ever refund someone 100%? That's a question. I don't know.
Right.
Maybe we
Depends
never.
on the product or service.
Yeah, maybe we never will.
Does it spoil? Does it
right.
break?
Now, if you sell a product, some companies are really good about this. If we sell you a product and it's defective in any way within this time frame, send it right back. And that's outlined, right? So it's almost like a refund return policy is what you might be talking about here. But sometimes refund returns only come about when there's a customer problem, right? Nobody's like, I love this thing, I'm going to get rid of it and send it back. So outlining that here's how we will handle refund returns or problems on our service or product. Here, and we're going to try to settle here and get them happy. If they say no, we can maybe go here. And we all know there's tiers.
Right.
Because we all know that what's the saying? You don't like what the person you're talking to is saying, so what do you say? Give me your manager, right? Because we know that guy's got authority to go one more down the checklist, right? He's got a little more authority to override or they don't want to give maybe the frontline supervisor the ability to give 100% refund, but maybe they'll give the department supervisor that authority if they think it's appropriate. So outlining those things, even when you start off and it's just you, that all your customers are going to be treated the same.
Right.
You don't want 2 people to be like, yeah, that broke for me. Oh, they gave you a new one because they only gave me $20.
Right.
So having a plan. And we're talking about problems because, unfortunately, customer service is dealing with problems. That's what it is. It's not, we already know. We talked in Blunt Force Fact number 2 how to capitalize on your brand heroes, turn them into ambassadors. The rest of it is dealing with the problems and having a set plan to deal with the problems. I'm a big fan of creating an operational plan that you stick to. And then when you hire someone, it's as easy as here you go.
Well, that's what we talked about in a previous video. We talked about just the idea of some of these bigger chains like a McDonald's or a Dunkin' Donuts and you having the same experience. Like one way you might look at it is I know that some of my friends were in the Boston area, so we're big Dunkin' Donuts people. And so they know which Dunkin' Donuts they're going to go to. Because they know if they ask for their drink, whatever the freaking drink is, right, where it's like I'm getting so many creams and so many sugars and hazelnut flavor, whatever, it's going to be made the same way. And the most important thing to them is that there's no crapshoot. They're not just showing up and wondering what they're going to get. The most important thing to them is that they're avoiding this one versus that one because that one, they know what they're getting. right? And that comfort, that knowledge that I'm more than likely to get a great experience is going to bring me back. And the other example I think is great when you're thinking about your customer service to me, and if you've got a family in particular, every one of those adults that does this as well, is just Disney World. Like, it's like the most consistent place in the world. It's like you go, the people act exactly the same. They've all been trained. It's all clean. Like, you're just going to have this great experience every single time, right? And it's like you go to, like, I don't know, like I feel like Six Flags is different, right? Six Flags is a little bit, it doesn't have the same customer service level, right? Whereas your customer, you don't
it's like you've got the happiness level.
Right.
You expect that.
And it's not just the characters, it's the whole experience. It's the idea of this cleanliness. The people are going to help you out. They're ready to go. They're customer facing, they're customer focused. It's just a whole different thing.
Right.
Right. And so, like, if you can get to the point, you're probably not get to that point if you're not a big multi-billion-dollar corporation, but get to that point on a small scale where you're focused on consistency, right?
You can be very impactful with a couple basic steps. I guarantee you, if we polled 90% of our listeners that own businesses and say, do you have a actual checklist for how you manage a complaint about a product or service, a lot of them are going to say no. And to me, that's a flaw.
Or do you have, we don't want to always focus on the negative. Do you have a consistent plan for dealing with people who've had a positive experience?
Right. Are you grabbing that? Right. You're making them, you turn them into an ambassador right away, right? So,
instead of just haphazardly, oh, you had a good experience. Like, instead of just thinking about it just then, like, you just have the consistency is what's going to be is going to paint the whole picture of your organization. And that's just obviously not just, that's a lesson in business and in customer service.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And from a brand ambassador standpoint, if our listeners, if they aren't following us, well, they're wrong, right? Because they should be. And they should be sharing this podcast as brand ambassadors of Blunt Force Business. Just to put into true effect the lessons we're trying to teach, our listeners should be sharing this podcast with their friends.
Of course.
Telling them how great it is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Be a brand ambassador for Blunt Force Business.
So we've just had a conversation about customer service and its importance. And we brought you some Blunt Force facts. Blunt Force fact number 1, no service, no business. And that's just kind of to emphasize the importance of service, right? In terms of bringing people back. Blunt Force fact number 2, your marketing is your happy customer, right? So if you can make people happy, if you can give them a pleasant experience, they're going to now be their ambassadors, they're going to tell other people, and it's going to spread. And Blunt Force fact number 3, consistency is key. So you want to have a plan in place for both positive, negative, all customer interactions, because that dependability is going to give them some comfort, and it's also going to give you control over the whole process.
Check. Great stuff.
Great stuff. Always great stuff.
I'm Brian LaFauci.
I'm Patrick Marino.
We'll see you next time.
Thank you.